What's happening, ladies and gents? Good morning. It's your boy, Mark. I'm here once again. It's Friday morning. We don't have work on Monday. I didn't work for like 8 days, so not having work on Monday is also amazing. I kind of made it to a holiday and looking forward to not having to work again. Alright, so, excuse me. So I decided to take a look at Morgan's interview with Sharon Tharp. I believe the interview was about 3 hours. And I'll be honest with you, and I'm sure that I'm not the only one who feels this way, but I was interested in the Venmo of it all. That's really what I was interested in. But I kind of gave the first hour. I had the first hour on. I used a suggestion that Chocolate had given me yesterday on the live, where I had it on in the background while I was doing something else. So I was kind of half listening to the first hour, and the first hour was just like strategy and alliances that she formed early, and what the game was like, how she connected with Vinny game wise early, and Rachel being in the house, and how she was happy to be aligned with Rachel. And good morning, Ed. You are the chat right now. You are the chat. How she was excited when she saw Rachel there, and she was excited at first to be in an alliance with Rachel and all that kind of stuff. And honestly, I'll be honest, I didn't really care about any of that. Her interviews, man, the only things I took from the early part of the interview that I cared about was like how she felt about not winning the $750,000, and she was like, honestly, I don't really care because I felt like the person who won the final HOH deserved to win, and I knew that if I didn't win the final HOH, I wasn't gonna win. So like, basically, Ashley won fair and square, and I'm just like, that's not the tea that we would like to hear. And then she was talking about how Sharon was like, are you going to watch back your season, or are you going to wait a little bit? And she was like, I don't know. She said, I don't know if I'm going to watch back the season at all, because she said, oh, I talked to a bunch of other past Big Brother players that said they never watched their season back. And I'm like, let's dive into that. Let's dive into that. Let's talk about why you don't want to rewatch the season. Don't just be like, I'm good, I'm happy, I'm perfectly fine, but I'm just not gonna watch the season just because. Um, Thanks for the floating hearts. I don't know what those do, but if it's just a heart, I mean, thanks for it anyway. Okay, I only heard the first hour and a half. You're better than me, but I had her on in the background for an hour. Anyways, um, I'm disappointed. Disclaimer: I've met Sharon Tharp twice, and I told her what I appreciated about her, and this is true as of the time when I was, when I first started watching all these interviews. Like, I watched some interviews just for entertainment purposes really early on, but then when I started trying to get into the interview bag myself, I started watching interviews to learn, to kind of get better, and I picked people that I found their interviews and thought that they were good. And by good, when it comes to Big Brother especially, good, I mean like less on the generic side, right? So people have said to me, of some of these people that I've interviewed, I can't think of who, I can't really think of who anymore. I could probably think of it more if I was to look back, because I haven't done an interview in probably over a year. But people have accused me of softball questions. This makes my questions look like sliders, if you know anything about baseball. Basically, there are certain questions that are like below the belt or really super messy or beyond show questions that if I'm interviewing somebody, I wouldn't like asking. But if it is something that me as a fan sat and watched for hours upon hours on the feeds, there was whole huge segments about it on the produced episodes. There's no way that I would ask the question in the way that Sharon asked the question here. Because when I interviewed Ayana, well, y'all won't remember, but there's an incident with Sophia. At one point, I asked her about this kind of fight that she had with one of the cast members. She didn't like the questions, but Ayana is still cool with me to this day. Like, this was stuff that happened right on the show. We saw it on the show. Who else? I mean, I asked Sam from the Circle questions about a beef that she had. She answered the question. I asked what's his name, Turner, about Jailer, and I know that he knew that was a hot button question, but I still asked him. There's like, if it's something that's literally right on the show, and especially something we see so much on the show, I'm for sure gonna ask the question, and not that I'm gonna be like, do you love him? Do you want him to be your boyfriend? Did you do stuff under the blanket? Like, I'm not gonna ask that, but it was the way that she asked it was giving us such an out, where it was kind of like, I know that you've been asked this before, and I know that the fandom kind of goes crazy with these kind of things, and I really don't want to have to ask you again. And it's probably nothing. Like, you give her 5 outs before you even get the question out. For me, I would just give my full, honest opinion as a viewer. God, how did you go through that whole thing without asking her option one and option two? Like, there's no way I could put together a Morgan interview and not be like, hey, when y'all were in bed, first of all, driving me crazy. It's driving me crazy just thinking about that. Who is Turner family? But hi, Turner family. Hi, Brooklyn. It's all good. The race and Thompson of the family was good. Yes, it was. Those two people, number two. That was two people. What do you mean? What do you mean? That was two people? I don't know what that means. Okay. Anyways, so yeah, it drives me crazy thinking about it as an interview. I'd be like, there was a night when you guys were in bed. I would start it off. I would try to think of a funny way to introduce. I would try to think of a funny way to introduce the topic, or like a different way to introduce the topic that doesn't just sound generic like everybody else's. I would give some kind of an intro with a goal of maybe making her laugh or something, and then I would mention, like, I was watching the feed and everything and the show, and I was noticing, the long hugs, and I would even start off into the Zach parts. I don't know if she got into Zach because I didn't watch I watched like 2 out of the 3 hours, so I don't know if she got into that. But I would get into the Zach part where she had the crush on Zach, and then she was crying, and she was crying. I forget who she was crying to, but she was talking to somebody and saying that Zach was making her cry, and the fact that she had these feelings for him, but he only had eyes for Lauren. I would kind of dive deeper into like Lauren and her kind of competing for the same guys. Um, I would get into the Vinny stuff, and then I would be like, was there a point where feelings for Vinny changed? I would get into the long hugs, which he did mention these things, which he mentioned all of them was an out. That's what I felt like. She gave her an out to not really answer those questions. Um, I guess that she was trying to make it a safe space, and I get that, but I feel like there can be legitimate journalistic questions asked about something that they spent hours and hours focusing on the TV show. This is not. She didn't even have to get into Kelsey or anything really like that. It didn't have to be any kind of deep postseason or Kelsey questions. It could have just been questions about literally what we were all watching on the show. And like who made the decision or how was the decision made that you guys were gonna sleep in the same HOH bed all those nights? You know, is that something that you personally would be okay with if your man was on the show? Um, the option one and option two question, like that's a miss. I mean, I don't remember. Maybe she asked her that. Maybe she asked her that in the initial set of interviews, the 10-minute ones that they have to do for their press run. I don't recall, but how can you not get into asking the option one and option two question and be like, what is the thing that you kept saying that we were watching? And then if she tried to downplay it, I would be like, hey, I guess you haven't seen the episode, but on the episode, it literally showed a diagram that said percentage of love, and it showed that you said it's greater than zero. And I would be like, speculation, not just from the fandom, but from production, was that the question that Vinny was asking is like, would I have a chance for a relationship with you once a wannabe Martin Luther King? I want to block you, but I actually want to see a second comment. Shut up and get to the back of the bus, slave. Martin Luther King had a dream. Rodney King had a nightmare. Okay. Yeah, it was unfunny. I gave you a little chance because I was like, maybe they're gonna be slightly funny before I block them. But all right, what does this one say? Needs a good wash. I don't know what that means, but I already gave the other person a chance for a second comment. You don't get that chance, sir. Bye. Anyways, yeah, one other thing is like the show says percentage chance of love, so she let her off easy with that, and then I lost my train of thought. What was the other thing? Hi, chocolate. There's another thing that I was like, come on, man. There was a part where Morgan said that what the fandom is doing with her is misogyny, and I was like, I don't know. The reason why she called it misogyny was because she said that it's misogyny that the fandom is blaming her more than Vince for Cheat Man. Um, I'm not tapped into the fandom like that, but I'm pretty sure plenty of people are calling him a weasel, calling him slimy. Even in the house, the house guests were more actually talking about him than her. Like Keanu saying that he's emotionally cheating. Will talking about. I mean, they were talking about both of them, but they were more so talking about Vince actually. So, and it was like a weird place to put the word misogyny in there. You should not drink and drive. Yeah, stupid comments. We got the bots in here today. Um, like we get these weird pockets of algorithm where everybody is saying the same stupid stuff. I don't understand that. Maybe it's like bots that come on at certain times because the last 2 days I've gotten that. Like it's not just the bots; it's that they're all saying very similar stuff within a short period of time. Actually, I wish they had a reunion too. I had a I had a weird idea. Maybe it's not weird, but I had an idea that next year or whenever I'm next year, like the Big Brother premiere party or something. I said I was gonna kind of do this last year, but I didn't do it. But I thought since nobody's able to really get reunions, the closest things we get to reunions are these like group TikToks that they do with like a reunion, dressing up like media, bringing my media gear, my microphone, all that stuff, right? Because John Brennan, who a lot of you may not know, a few of you might, John Brennan is from the Real World second season, California. He said to me, if there's one thing that a former reality TV star loves, it's attention. So if it's like a fan rolling up on them, might not be that enthusiastic about it, but if they see someone who looks official, that has like, they're dressed up well and they have a nice camera and they're like, I'm from such and such podcast or whatever, and it looks real official, like you're somebody. They'll come and talk to you, and maybe if that happened and there was groups of cast together, I could just it's not a reunion, but I could ask them questions while they're there together. That would be cool. Something else I was saying. Morgan. Oh, there's something else I was saying about Morgan. Another one of the softball questions. Morgan was asked about. Oh, she asked Morgan about October. You know how Vince kept telling Morgan, "Hey, there's something that I have to tell you in October. You're not gonna like it, but it's something I really have to tell you in October." She was like, she downplayed it. She was like, "Oh, that was just a thing that Kelly used to say." She's like, Kelly used to be like, if it was something that wasn't for the cameras or personal that we didn't want to say to the cameras, then we would just say, that's an October thing. Like, let's talk about that in October. It's like, no, we didn't hear. I don't know if maybe Kelly is the first one who said that, but the context of us seeing Vince say that was that towards the very end of the season, not like we were hearing this all season from beginning to end, like towards the end of the season when they were getting very close, we started hearing him talk about this October thing, which gave us the impression of like, I have something personal to tell you about my home life, that I really want to talk to you about, off camera. And, Sharon just let that go, that segment that I'm sure every one of us or everyone did, I'm sure was waiting for that. Because even the comment section was an indication, basically, that everybody was watching it to get to that part. It was about 10 minutes out of that 3 hours. And truthfully, the majority of the rest of what I watched, I didn't care too much about. Like, when I was watching various Ashley interviews, honestly, even though I just don't have the attention span to sit down and watch things for 3-4 hours like that, but Ashley's interviews were very, very engaging to me on a variety of topics, because I just have found Ashley to be a more well-rounded game player with a more well-rounded game than Morgan. Not necessarily. Vince's game was kind of interesting, even though I didn't like it. It was kind of interesting, but I've liked all of Ashley's interviews, is what I'm saying. Everyone, no matter who I watched her. I watched like a little bit of her interview with Hannah. I think I saw some of her Sharon Tharp interviews. I've seen some interviews with her with people I don't even know, and I was interested in those interviews. Like, she's a good interview to get. She's a really good interview to get. But yeah, I felt like she got off the hook. With this Sharon Tharp interview. It's not that Sharon Tharp is like a hardball interview anyways. Who was that person who was the hardball interviewer? That was... Why can I not think of her? Kat Dunn. Yeah, Kat Dunn. I'm not trying to say that Sharon Tharp has ever been Kat Dunn or anything like that. So I wasn't expecting her to be like, really? You didn't say that? Well, here's the receipts. Like what she did with Monty. Nor am I even saying that she had Monty level of things that needed to be asked to her, because like, I don't think she did. I don't think that she really did anything that crazy to be pressed. I'm just saying, if you get her on there and you get a chance to ask the interview questions, and at least try to really ask the questions. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, just ask the questions. If you ask the questions and she's still gonna be vague, aloof, whatever, maybe ask a follow-up question. Want to answer? Listen, I respect people when I interview them, because Ayana is the first. And if you watched her first season of the Challenge All Stars 2, the Challenge All Stars 2, it was juicy. Sorry, there's a plane overhead. It was a juicy season, right? It was a juicy season. So cold outside. So there was a lot of juicy questions that I had for her, right? And some of the questions, based on seeing her on the show, I assumed that she was going to give me really good answers, but she cut me off a few times. Like, no, it's not like that. You know, me and this person talked it out, and we're cool, and I'm not trying to like reignite anything. We're all good now. And hey, was I disappointed that she answered my question that way? For sure. But I respected it. So don't get me wrong and think that what I'm saying here is like press somebody to answer questions in ways that they don't want to answer the question. If they don't want to answer the question, they don't want to answer the question. It is what it is. But to say, I understand that you've been asked this before, and it's probably not exactly what it looks like. And people do too much. People run away with narratives, like to give like 15 outs before the question even comes out. I'm like, just ask the question in a respectful way. You know, that's what I believe. Just get the question out respectfully. Follow-up question if they don't really give a solid answer or like an answer. And then if they don't want to keep going from there, you move on. Because, you know, I do believe in respecting the interviewee, especially because if you're somebody who's respected and people come on there because they trust you, not to make them look like a fool, not to play them, you know what I mean? But you can still be a journalist and ask people things that they don't like. That's my only thing. But that's all I got for right now. I gotta rush, get to work as soon as I can because I got a meeting this morning. All right, so please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified of when I drop some more great content. Thank you all. Have a great